everyone. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast, where we help you speak better, sound smarter, and feel more confident in English. I'm Marks.
And I'm Jessica. It's great to have you here again. Whether you're studying English for work, travel, or just for fun, you're in the right place. And I'm Jessica. It's great to have you here again. Whether you're studying English for work, travel, or just for fun, you're in the right place.
Today's episode is one that so many of our listeners have been asking for. We're diving into how to speak like a native. Exactly. And that's what we're going to unpack today. We'll talk about pronunciation, intonation, idioms, and even how to think in English like native speakers do.
And don't worry, you don't need to be perfect. We'll show you that speaking like a native is more about sounding natural than sounding like someone from London or New York.
That's right. So grab your notebook, a cup of coffee, and let's jump in.
And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode.
All right, let's get started. How to speak like a native. All right, so Jessica, before we start giving tips, let's talk about what people actually mean when they say they want to speak like a native.
Good point. I think a lot of learners imagine that speaking like a native means having a perfect accent, like sounding 100% American, British, or Australian. But that's not really the goal, right?
Exactly. It's not about copying someone else's voice. It's more about communicating naturally. The rhythm, the flow, the little expressions that make your English sound smooth and real.
Yes. Native speakers often use simple words, but they use them in a very natural way. It's about how you say things, not just what you say.
Totally. For example, a textbook might say, "I do not know." But most native speakers would just say, "I don't know," or even, "Dunno."
Right. And the same goes for questions. Instead of, "Are you going to the party?" a native might say, "You going to the party?" It's shorter, more relaxed, but still correct in everyday conversation.
So true. I think learners sometimes get stuck trying to sound too formal because that's what they're taught in school. But in real life, natives use contractions, filler words, and connected speech.
Exactly. And that's what makes it sound natural, not necessarily perfect. The goal is to speak comfortably, confidently, and clearly enough that native speakers understand you easily.
Yeah, native-like is more about comfort and connection, not imitation.
Well said. So if you're listening right now and thinking, "I'll never sound native," don't worry. You don't need to. You just need to sound natural.
Perfect way to put it. Okay, so now that we know what speaking like a native really means, let's move on to one of the biggest parts of sounding natural: pronunciation and intonation.
Yes, this is where a lot of learners can make quick improvements once they know what to listen for.
All right, Jessica, let's talk about something that really changes how you sound: pronunciation and intonation.
Yes, a lot of learners think pronunciation is just about saying every word correctly, but it's actually much more than that. It's also how your voice moves, the rise and fall, the rhythm.
Exactly. For example, think about how we say, "really." Depending on our tone, it can mean different things: surprise, disbelief, or even sarcasm.
Haha, yes, like really? When you're shocked versus really, when you don't believe someone. Same word, totally different feeling because of intonation.
And that's something textbooks almost never teach, but it's one of the biggest reasons natives sound natural.
Right. Also, English is a stress-timed language. That means we don't stress every word equally. We emphasize the important words, and the rest kind of flow together.
Yeah, like if I say, "I bought a new car," the stress is on bought and new. But if I change it to "I bought a new car," I'm emphasizing car. It changes what the listener focuses on.
Exactly. And once you start paying attention to that rhythm, your English instantly sounds smoother.
So true. One great way to practice is shadowing. That's when you listen to native speakers and try to copy their tone, rhythm, and speed as they speak.
Yes, you can use YouTube videos, podcasts, or even movie clips. Just repeat along, even if you don't get every word perfect. Focus on how they sound, not just what they say.
That's such a good exercise. It trains your ear and your mouth at the same time.
Exactly. And listeners, don't worry if you sound funny at first. That's part of the process. Everyone sounds a bit awkward when they start.
Absolutely. Keep practicing, and soon it'll start to feel natural.
All right, so now that we've talked about pronunciation and intonation, let's move on to something that gives English its real personality: natural phrases and idioms.
Yes, this is where you can really start sounding native, even with simple words. All right, Jessica, this is one of my favorite parts of speaking like a native, using natural phrases and idioms.
Same here. Idioms and expressions are what make English sound alive. Natives use them all the time, and if you don't understand them, it can feel like you're missing half the conversation.
Exactly. Like if someone says, I'm going to hit the books tonight, that doesn't mean they're literally hitting books. It just means they're going to study.
Right. Or when someone says, let's hang out this weekend, that simply means let's spend time together. These are the kinds of expressions that make English feel friendly and natural.
And here's the cool thing, most idioms aren't super advanced. You just have to hear them used in real conversations. Watching TV shows or YouTube videos with real people talking is a great way to learn them.
Totally. When you watch something like Friends or The Office, you pick up on those natural phrases like, no way, you gotta be kidding me, or what's up.
Yes, and learners can even start using them right away in daily conversations. For example, instead of saying, I am very tired, you can say, I'm beat.
Ha ha ha, that's a good one. Or instead of, I don't know, you can say, no idea, or beats me. Those short phrases sound so natural.
Exactly. The trick is not to memorize long lists of idioms, but to learn them in context. When you hear a new phrase, note where it's used and how it sounds.
Yes, and then try using it in your own sentence right away. Even talking to yourself helps.
That's a great tip. All right, so we've covered pronunciation, intonation, and natural expressions. But there's another big secret to sounding native.
Ah, yes, my favorite part, thinking in English.
Exactly. Let's dive into that next. Okay, Jessica, this next part might be the most powerful thinking in English.
Yes, a lot of learners don't realize how important this is. If you want to sound natural, you have to stop translating everything from your native language into English.
Exactly. When you translate in your head, your speech slows down, and sometimes the sentence structure comes out a little strange.
Right. And it makes you feel less confident too because you're always checking your grammar instead of just speaking.
So true. When you start thinking in English, your brain begins to connect words directly to ideas, not to translations. That's when your English really starts to flow.
And the good news is, you don't need to move to an English-speaking country to do this. You can train your brain anywhere.
Absolutely. One of my favorite exercises is to narrate your day in English. For example, when you wake up, say to yourself, I'm brushing my teeth, or I need coffee.
Ha ha ha, yes. I do that too. Or when you're walking somewhere, describe what you see. The weather's nice today? Or that car looks fast. It's simple, but it helps your brain think directly in English.
Another great tip is to change the language on your phone or social media apps to English. It forces you to interact with English naturally every day.
Exactly. And if you have English-speaking friends online, try chatting with them in English. Even short messages count. The goal is to make English part of your everyday thinking.
That's the secret. Once you start living a bit in English, even just in your mind, your speaking becomes smoother, and your confidence grows fast.
Perfectly said. Okay, up next, we're going to talk about something every learner faces, common mistakes that stop you from sounding native.
Yes, this is a big one, and some of these mistakes are surprisingly easy to fix. All right, Jessica, let's talk about the common mistakes that can make learners sound less natural, even if their grammar is great.
Oh yes, there are a few big ones. The first one is translating too much from your native language.
Absolutely. When you translate word for word, you often end up with sentences that sound a little strange to native ears.
Right. For example, in some languages you might say, open the light, but in English we say, turn on the light. Tiny difference, but it makes a big impact.
Exactly. So the goal is to learn expressions the way natives actually say them, not how they'd translate directly.
Another big mistake is sounding too formal in casual conversations, like saying, good morning, how do you do, when your friend just says, hey, what's up?
Haha. Yes, it's polite, but it doesn't sound natural for everyday speech. You want to match your tone to the situation. Formal English for work or emails, casual English for friends.
Exactly. And here's another one, speaking too perfectly.
Oh, that's a good one. Some learners try so hard to avoid mistakes that they pause too much or sound robotic.
Right. But even native speakers make small mistakes or use filler words like you know, like, or I mean. The key is not to overuse them, just sprinkle them naturally.
Totally. And sometimes learners avoid contractions, which makes them sound a bit stiff. Saying, I cannot do it, instead of I can't do it, can sound too formal in normal conversation.
Exactly. It's not about perfect grammar, it's about natural rhythm.
So, to sum up, don't translate too literally, relax your speech, use contractions, and focus on how natives actually talk, not just what's in the grammar book.
Perfect summary. And now that we know what to avoid, let's talk about how to practice daily and keep improving, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Yes, this is where real progress happens through daily habits and smart practice. All right, Jessica, we've talked about the what and the why. Now, let's focus on the how. How can learners practice every day and stay motivated to keep improving?
Yes, because consistency is everything. You don't need to study for hours. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day can make a huge difference if you do it right.
Exactly. One of the best ways is to make English a natural part of your routine. For example, listen to an English podcast, like this one, while you're cooking, walking, or driving.
Ha ha ha, yes. And try talking to yourself in English throughout the day. You can describe what you're doing or even think out loud, okay, I'm making breakfast, or let's check my messages.
That's a great one. Another tip is recording yourself speaking. It might feel strange at first, but it's an amazing way to hear your pronunciation and rhythm.
Totally. You'll notice things you don't hear while speaking. Maybe you speak too fast or drop some words. Listening back helps you fix those small details.
And if you can, find a speaking partner, online or in person. There are tons of free apps and communities where you can chat with other learners or even native speakers.
Yes, and if you don't have a partner, you can still practice by shadowing, repeating after podcasts, YouTube videos, or even movie characters. It's like language karaoke.
Haha, I love that. English karaoke. And for motivation, set small goals. Learn 5 new phrases a week. Or do a 7-day speaking challenge.
Exactly. Celebrate small wins. The more you enjoy the process, the faster you'll sound natural.
All right, so daily practice, shadowing, recording yourself, and staying consistent. That's the key to progress.
Perfect. And before we wrap up, let's quickly review what we've learned today.
All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of today's episode, How to Speak Like a Native.
Yes, we've covered so much today, from understanding what sounding native really means to pronunciation, intonation, idioms, thinking in English, and even daily practice routines.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to sound perfect, you just have to sound natural. Focus on rhythm, flow, and confidence instead of chasing a perfect accent.
That's right. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep enjoying the process. Every small step you take brings you closer to fluency.
And if you found today's episode helpful, make sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss a new one. We'd also love to hear from you. Share your favorite tip or your progress in the comments.
Yes, and tell us which topics you'd like us to cover next. We might feature your suggestion in an upcoming episode.
All right, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to the English Learning Podcast.
Keep practicing, stay confident, and remember, the more you speak, the more natural you'll sound.
See you next time, everyone.